This week on Cycling Central, we get hot, dry and dusty as the downhillers and cross-country bandits take on Mount Stromlo. Tom Bonin reigns supreme in a place where it rarely rains.
Front flip turn down, 360X up.
And they have a language all their own and tons of style as we check out Australia's best dirt jumpers. We're speaking your language here on Cycling Central. Hello again from Cycling Central. The National Track Championships take place here at Sydney's Dunkgrave Velodrome this week, and already some of the state teams are behind me preparing for the many medals up for grabs in this 7-day carnival, and we'll bring you highlights in next week's program. Today, if you're a lover of dirt in all its forms, you'd be pretty happy with what we've got, including our wrap of the National Mountain Bike Championships held at Mount Stromlo. Incidentally, congratulations must go out to the ACT government for securing the rights to host the 2009 Mountain Bike World Championships. It's a great get, and we're certainly looking forward to that. First up, Jim Trail gives us an insight into the 2-hour pain fest of the cross-country discipline on the Chain Guide.
The Olympic format cross-country course is the domain of the whip-it-thin, super-fit, superhuman. Multiple laps of a gruelling track is what's on offer for a day at the office for the Lycra Bandits. Your typical Olympic format race will last around 120 minutes, and what a pair of hours it is. The race plays out in a manner almost the exact opposite of a road race. It starts with a mad sprint to the first single track, then riders find their tempo, either going out fast and trying to hurt their rivals early, or playing cat and mouse games, marking each other and waiting for a crash or a mistake to offer the chance of driving home the winning move. There's always climbing. If the course set is feeling kind, it'll be a power lap, multiple short, sharp climbs best suited to strong riders. But often as not, ascending takes place all at once, 3 to 4 kilometres of climbing that rewards the fit. From the top, it's back down, and while it's not as demanding as the downhill discipline, technical trail features will favour the bold and punish those less skilled. While fitness is important, technical ability is never secondary. The short track format is the pop version of the sport, a technical dirt criterion that quickly separates the heroes from the zeros. The 2007 National Championships pitted competitors against a series of new courses at a new venue, Canberra's Mount Stromlo Forest Park. After the start line scramble, local favourite Nikki Fisher took the race by the horns during the first lap of a hot, dusty and treeless Mount Stromlo course, a track that included plenty of technical challenges. Reigning marathon champion Tori Thomas gradually reeled Fisher in and claimed the lead by halfway. Thomas was looking to cap her recovery from a near career-ending accident with a car in 2005. Despite a surge from Fisher in the final lap, Thomas took the title by a full minute.
Kind of thought I had it, and then Nikki was chasing, and then I only smiled coming down the last little bit. Yeah, I was worried the whole way because I wanted it so much.
So Mount Beauty's Tori Thomas will wear the champions' colours at the series final in her hometown in February. Nikki Fisher posted a career best result to take the silver, while European-based Australian Kate Potter claimed bronze at her first Australian Championships. Both the temperature and the wind had increased by the time the men took to the mountain. Defending champion Sid Tabele was favourite after victory in the last 2 national rounds, but leading after the first lap it was his teammate Chris Yongawad, fresh from an impressive Tour Down Under performance with the Uni SA team. Yongawad and Tabele were joined by Sean Lewis, the young South Australian returning to the head of the field after a long recovery from injury. The trio held off the chasing riders until Tabele faded, leaving Yongawad and Lewis to battle for the lead. Ultimately, the form of the 2005 champion allowed him to hold off his South Australian counterpart to claim the 2007 National Champions jersey.
The track suited me, pretty well today. A lot of open stuff, and it couldn't have been better for me. I think so. The conditions were up my alley, so it was great.
The Tour Down Under proved the perfect preparation for Chris Yongawad to claim a second champions jersey. Elite silver went to Victorian rider Murray Spink, with Perrin Delacour third. Sean Lewis's overall second cemented his claim on the under-23 classification, ahead of Lachlan Norris and James Mavis. In a double dose of bad luck, Sid Tabele was fined for folding his number plate to keep it clear of his cables, a sanction unprecedented in Australian mountain biking.
The circumstances are that he folded the main event sponsor
logo under the plate so it wasn't visible.
Downhill racing featured the 2006 World Champion, West Australia's Sam Hill, competing at home for the first time since his New Zealand victory. Hill was the man to beat after he claimed Saturday's fastest qualifying time over the 2.2 kilometre course. But race day wasn't kind to the champion. A sand-filled rut towards the end of a physically taxing run saw Hill crash, ultimately finishing 8th. Local crowds were ecstatic when Canberra's Jared Rando posted the fastest time and took his place in the hot seat as the leading rider.
3:24.21.
But it wasn't long before world number 3 Nathan Rennie attacked the jumps and burns at the track that will host the 2009 World Championships. 5 days of practice and competition left the course very loose, and it caught the defending champion in the final corners. Despite the miscalculation, Rennie's lightning-quick recovery delivered him to the line with the fastest time, stopping the clock 2 seconds ahead of Randall. Injury kept Queensland's Jared Graves from last year's World Championships, but he proved that he's back and faster than ever, posting the quickest time, a full 1.5 seconds better than Rennie.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with it, I guess. I made a couple little mistakes, but I was pretty happy to get away with just that because it's really blown out and tough at the moment. But I just try to keep it really smooth and steady up the top. Like, I didn't even really start puffing until probably 2/3 of the way down the course, just trying to save as much as I could for the bottom.
The fastest woman down the hill was Julia Bora, but the Hungarian was ineligible for the Australian title, which went to Joanne Fox. The New South Wales woman has recently stepped up to the elite ranks of the veterans and is proving her ability against younger riders. The cross-country women return to the venue for short track racing, and the sprint format is a real crowd pleaser.
Just yet for Rebecca Henderson. We've got a crash here.
Ella Starr took the lead early. With a point to prove, the 2006 long course champion led from start to finish. The short format clearly suited Starr, whose recent cyclocross racing turned out to be the perfect preparation.
I mean, I didn't even know I was coming over from the Nationals, and then I did the cyclocross season in the States. So, I mean, those races are 45 minutes, so this was probably a little bit more suited to me than the long course, so it was a good result.
Tori Thomas had enough in the legs to take silver.
It's actually a kind of really fun pain. Like, you can dig real deep and then you hit that threshold and you're either going to cramp or spew.
Canberra fans were delighted by the form of 16-year-old sensation Rebecca Henderson, who held off some big names for 4th. The men's race pitted the elite and under-23 Olympic format champions against veteran campaigner Paul Browning. Before long, it was clear that no one would be able to follow the trio, and with the 2 South Australians teaming up against Browning, the numbers appeared against him. Despite the sprint nature of the event, a duo working together can hurt an individual, especially up the 150-metre straight, which pitted riders against a cruel headwind. But with short track victories on the US national circuit, the experienced Browning was able to outfox his 2 younger rivals for the gold.
You know, memory serves me well, and I know how to ride a bike every now and then. But yeah, to win a national title, you know, like being retired for 3 years. The bike I rode on today was the bike I retired on in 2004, so I dusted the cobwebs off.
With the next 2 national championships and the 2009 World Championships at the Canberra venue, organisers have work ahead of them to make necessary improvements to the new facility and to fine-tune the logistics that can make or break such a complex event.
The Tour of Qatar is the first big race for European-based professionals targeting this year's Spring Classics. The lure of big prize money, the relatively close proximity and the warmer weather makes it an ideal hit-out. Another bonus is Qatar's flat countryside. No hills around here, as Stephen de Jong wore the leader's jersey after Quick-Step triumphed in the team time trial. The Tour has always been a favourite for teammate Tom Boonen. Last year, the Belgian Bullet won 4 of the 5 stages on offer. He eased his way into the overall lead after clinching stage 2. Probably remembered mostly for this wayward collision between Australian Graham Brown and Belgian sprint rival Tom Steels. Brown was relegated, Steels' tour came to an unexpected end. Stage 3 was tailor-made for another Boonen bash. With Robbie McEwen deciding to bypass Qatar, only Alessandro Pataki proved a genuine threat. But it was Boonen who continued his winning ways.
Beginning of the season is very important because when you've been working hard with the team and you did some long and intensive training rides and working especially for the sprint, and then when you win straight away, it's like a morale boost and everybody's happy straight away and you see the smiles on the faces in the evening and straight away it's a good start for the season.
24 hours later, he made it 3 from 3 on Qatar's open flat roads. He was part of a 22-rider breakaway which failed to include Pataki. Brown finished runner-up, but he was no challenge to the yellow jersey, which remained on the shoulders of the Belgian. While Bonin dominated, his hopes of winning back-to-back tours suffered a fatal blow when he missed a 10-man breakaway in stage 5 after puncturing. But Bonin's quick-step teammate Wilfred Kretskens was promoted to the overall leadership. And that's the way it stayed to the finish on the streets of the capital Doha on stage 6. Traditional BMX racing is certainly making inroads since being embraced by Cycling Australia and winning a place at the 2008 Beijing Olympics. But what about the dirt jumping side of the sport? Although not on the Olympic program as yet, this form of cycling certainly generates a strong cult following, as was evident at the recent Monster Games in Sydney. Let me tell you, these guys have no fear. They fly through the air with the greatest of ease.
I just love riding my bike, been doing it since I was a kid, and it's just the freedom, I suppose.
What appears difficult can be made to look quite simple.
I know what I can do, I know what I'm capable. Like right now, I hurt my wrist really bad, but I'm muscling through, and I know what I'm capable of doing.
What was once an underground sport is now mainstream, especially in the USA, where dirt jumping is big business.
Don't make $1 million, but it's just a passion of mine, and the money doesn't even really come into it because it's just love for it. So you get a bit of money at the end of the day. It doesn't even seem real because you didn't really earn it. You're just riding your bike.
Ryan Gutler is one of 7 Australians regularly competing on the lucrative US circuit. He's part of an invasion that has been noticed.
I think Australia's gaining more talent. You guys are coming out to the States and doing some serious damage.
The King of Dirt is the only event of its type on the Australian calendar, and there are calls to introduce a national series. Either way, this is a real adrenaline rush. Whether you're behind the barriers watching as a spectator or one of the hardened competitors chasing glory, it's breathtaking in every way.
The talent that's over here is just as good as the talent over there.
But conditions have to be perfect when you're about to take off.
We're just watching these flags here, seeing how much they're getting blown by. You can feel the wind, and if it gets a break, we drop in and have a go and see how we go.
But take part in dirt jumping and you run the risk of injury.
I've knocked out 9 teeth, jaw, broken ribs, broken legs, everything, and every BMXer has gone through it. We don't just sit at home and sit on the couch, we're actually out riding every day, so a lot of us are all skinny and fit and in good shape, and yeah, that's what it takes. It's an injury-prone sport, but I think we love it that much, we don't really notice the danger of it that much.
And what about the lingo? It's in a class of its own.
360 X up, 360 turn down, old school no-hander, 360 one-handed X up, backflip!
Cannonballs, Superman, 360s, whatever. Gutler had all the tricks in the book and couldn't hide his emotions when crowned King of Dirt for 2007.
Bikes. Love them. Mountain or road, recumbent or unicycle. It's all about moving through the world in your own way. Getting from A to B while sucking the marrow out of the journey. And there are a few bike enthusiasts that suck the marrow as hard as these guys. The Rat Patrol is a loose collective of bike nuts with chapters in the US, UK and right here in Australia's national capital, Canberra. These guys build and rebuild their own bikes, and what bikes they are. Members of the Rat Patrol don't let function get in the way of form when it comes to customising their machines. It's art on wheels, expression through transformation, and they know how to have a good time. Yeah! You might be thinking that this is a strange new direction for bike evolution to be taking. But these tall bikes aren't new.
People have been building bikes, crazy bikes, non-standard bikes, custom bikes, I guess you could call them, you know, ever since bicycles have been around. And I guess the first tall bikes were for the people who were lighting the lamps back when they used to have gasoline lanterns.
Here's another classic mark. It's all ape hangers and sissy bars when the Rat Patrol put the chop right back into chopper. For all its rough edges, I love this bike. It's sensational. Classic chopper styling, but the spring in the front end really referencing modern mountain bikes. There's a cartoon element to it. It is fantastic. Woohoo! What's behind the Rat Patrol?
First and foremost, I guess, just people who want to ride bikes and have fun. You can't help but get a lot of smiles when you're riding these bikes, and that kind of turns into smiles on your own face as well.
As much as it is about riding, hanging out with these guys is about just that, hanging out. The Rats are an interesting crew. They're an anarchic collective, very much about the group rather than the individual. But one hallmark of Rat Patrol individuality is the naming ceremony, conferred when you've built your first bike.
Victor two-stroke and two humps.
Two humps.
Two humps.
How'd you get that name?
Various reasons. I think the first weekend I went rat riding with these guys, I think that probably had some part to do with it.
Names, guys?
Bloody Mary.
And I'm Loose Brown.
Loose Brown. Why are you Loose Brown?
Because my first bike had a brown rim, and then the...
My beautiful boyfriend made me this one, full original 70s, to go with my 70s panel van and my 70s girls.
This mild-mannered suburban garage is the Rat Patrol Chop Shop. It's here these bikes are starting on their second life, after a little bit of time on the scrap heap. Recycling is a big part of the Rat Patrol ethos.
The idea of Rat Patrol is to reuse as much steel as possible, and we try not to waste steel, so when we have steel come in, we try and use all of it if we can, and we try and save steel for the right project, so we're not throwing stuff away, which means that people who come into Rat Patrol get the idea of not buying new stuff all the time, yet and they can reuse the steel that already exists in our workshop and in rubbish tips around Australia. And they also learn how to make bicycles, and therefore they can maintain them, and so the bikes last longer. Our current project is an amphibious tall couch trike. The idea with that is that we'll be able to have 3 passengers, continue down a boat ramp into the water and go wherever we want.
As you saw from our coverage of the National Mountain Bike Championships, the Mount Stromlo forest hasn't fully recovered from the bushfires that ravaged the area 3 years ago. And while the trails are still relatively new, it's hoped they'll be of World Championship standard in 2.5 years' time. But will it be able to host an event which promises to showcase Australian mountain biking to the world? We asked some of the top riders for their opinions.
The hill's not very big, but they've tried to make it as long as possible, which is also makes it as hard as possible, which they've done the right thing. Just be good with a little bit more speed, I think, and it's going to be a good Worlds track in a couple of years' time.
It's pretty dusty for one, but no, it's actually a really good course. I think it's quite tough.
Got potential. Once the trees come, man, this place is going to rock, huh? I think we should empty that lake out here with sprinklers.
I think, yeah, it's great. It's a great course. It's definitely challenging, and yeah, it's got a lot of potential. I like it for sure.
If the Worlds was in maybe 3 or 4 years when the course was actually a bit more grown up, it could be interesting. I don't think it's quite yet world class.
Bit of reticulation and a few trees won't go astray, a bit of grass.
Let's not beat around the bush. The World Championship needs to be a better than great event. You need to tick all the boxes and make sure everything's absolutely perfect. So, sure, the foundation's there, but it's going to be a challenging but exciting time ahead for Cork.
It's our final week on the velodrome on Total Cyclist. The margins were surprisingly tight last week, so the trackies will be looking to stamp their authority all over this week's sprint racing. When the votes came in, almost 50% supported the trackies.
With the sprint racing, it's over 3 laps. Again, whatever position you're in, the secret would be to lead out. I mean, you're racing experienced people here that have ridden 1,000 sprints before, so if they're good enough to come round, let them come round, or don't let them come round, but make them work very hard for the win. You have the sprinters line, the red line, If you're in between the black and the red line, don't go out of that, because otherwise you'll be disqualified.
Armed with decades of knowledge from coach Gary Sutton, the mountain bikers were ready to give it their best shot.
Right to rock and roll away.
The men up first in the best of two race format. Aidan Leffman tried to inflict some pain on Matt Pettit and Trent Wilson at the end of the first lap, leaving the more experienced riders scrambling to cover the unorthodox tactic. But it wasn't to be for the fat tyre fiend, as the skinny-tyred riders fought it out to the line.
Here's a big move around the outside. Struggling, Matty. Oh.
Matt by a wheel, with Trent taking second, but not for long.
Okay, Willow, you know better than that, right? You've been DQ'd, you moved out of the sprinters line, dangerous riding. First, second, third. Sorry about that.
Despite the rules, the sprint can be a wild ride.
You're not supposed to headbutt or push or anything like that. It does happen a lot though. Hadn't planned on doing that one.
We've had the draw for positions. Zoe, you lead out. 2, Kate 3. We've already had 1 disqualification today. Don't make it 2. Roll away. 3 to go.
Zoe King also trying Aidan's tactic. She kept the tempo high, this time with more success. The Bates sisters worked together to cover Zoe, but family allegiances were immediately forgotten in the sprint to the line.
I should win that one. I think it gets harder for me from now on.
Righto, roll away.
Race 2 for the men was a well-mannered affair, but Trent sought revenge for his disqualification with a convincing win. But it wouldn't be enough for the roadie. Track specialist Matt taking out this week's challenge on aggregate.
There's no respect from these young fellas nowadays. There's respect, only on the road though.
A virtual replay in race 2 for the women. The sisters keeping Zoe in check this time. In the last lap, Natalie let Kate lead out the sprint and put her under pressure in the home straight. But it was a clean sweep for the track star, the younger Bates sister taking out all 3 challenges on the boards. A deserved lap of honour for the track champion. Next week, it's the roadie's chance to shine as we burn up the bitumen of Eastern Creek Raceway with a team time trial. Each week, you can win a Cannondale Surpass cycling jersey, which will also put you in the running for a chance to win a Cannondale Dream Bike of your choice, complete with your pick of the latest Shran componentry. All you have to do is answer a simple question. Which of the 3 cycling disciplines will win next week's Total Cyclist Challenge? Answer 1 for track, 2 for road, or 3 for mountain bike. Simply send an SMS text to 1991 1117 with the answer, followed by your name and address, or complete an entry form on the Cycling Central website at sbs.com.au. Stay tuned next week as we give you the results and we bring you all the action on Total Cyclist. It's getting very interesting in the Total Cyclist competition. The margins have been surprisingly tight, and that should make for some very interesting results next week. Check out the Cycling Central website at sbs.com.au. And if you're in Sydney, make sure you get along to the Dunkgrave Velodrome. Some of these riders will be chasing positions in the Australian team, which goes to the World Champs in Spain later in the year. For the team, I'm Mike Tomalaris. Keep riding.